Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Tezos, Who's Number One, Who's Next Final, Gordon Ryan versus Pedro Marinho, and Isaac Michel versus Kyle Chambers. We're also going to recap Fight to Win 205, talk a little bit about Boa Super 8, some new ADCC news, and
AIGA.
And AIGA, which is Craig Jones.
The Arlan Grip Pro.
Yep. 18, which had Craig Jones on it. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host.
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It's been a pretty... we got a hell of a show today.
Yeah,
I am very excited for it. We're gonna get a rare rant later in the show that I'm excited for. We had a couple matches this weekend that definitely deserve recapping, and we've learned some things about the professional landscape of the sport that I'm excited to talk about. We actually have a ton of news this week, too. As we approach ADCC, again, as always, we have kind of a lot of ADCC news, but biggest news this week is that Tim Spriggs is out. I think, was he out last week of ADCC, or is that this week?
I think it was not officially announced, but we kind of knew that he was out. Because
Yep.
I think he put it out there that he was out.
So Tim Spriggs is now out of under 99, under 99 over. I think he was under. Under 99 for ADCC. Replacement will be announced, I think,
soon.
Very shortly. Very short. I think one is announced, it's just not public yet for who that is. So then we will have a rounded out division for under 99. So that's, again, we've talked about it a little bit last week. It's unfortunate. We would have liked to see Spriggs back in ADCC, especially after his performance versus Kynan, but you know, that's what's going on for that.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. He seems to be kind of transitioning over to professional wrestling, and we'll talk about him in the later section of the news, because I think you did some digging and found out some information, and so we'll talk about that in a minute here. What other ADCC news we have?
They released a schedule.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, so we now know that International Open is day before weigh-ins.
Yes.
Which is kind of exciting.
So now you're looking at changing. You're like, how much weight? Miranda's going, how much weight can I cut?
Yeah, we're gonna see how small I can get. It's gonna be an interesting ride. You guys are all gonna love it.
I'm not gonna love it, Miranda. I'm gonna get there. We're getting there Monday. So we have the schedule. So if you have not seen the schedule, very brief overview of the schedule. Wednesday is the ADCC Open Rules meeting, and then the weigh-ins are happening from 5 to 8 p.m. Thursday is the ADCC Open, starts at 9 a.m. Friday is the ADCC Rules Seminar and Judging Seminar. Costs only $50. Usually they're $100. That's at noon. I think it's at Thomas and Mack. I'm not sure yet. Friday is the ADCC Mega Hall of Fame Seminar. That's the $400 seminar with the 16 ADCC legends. I might do that.
I don't know.
I keep thinking about it, and I'm debating it.
We'll see.
I'm not sure yet. And then we have the pre-show for ADCC 2022 and the wristband collection. And then we have a closed-door rules meeting with the athlete that happens that evening on Friday. And then Friday after that, we have doors open to the public. We have the 7 p.m. ADCC bracket reveal. I actually had a ton of fun in 2019 going to that. It was like they brought all the athletes out individually by division, and then on the big Jumbotron, they showed the brackets.
Is that when they're going to do the whole signing thing where you can bring your shit and have it signed?
That's after.
Oh, okay.
So the brackets, I honestly, I'm really happy they're doing the brackets. I was like, oh, it's cheesy. I had a fucking great time. It was so cool because leading up to that event, we had all on the team been picking okay, this guy's gonna fight this guy. We had all kind of we had figured out a lot of the bracketing, but there were still a lot of X factors. That Friday bracket reveal gives us a ton of stuff to talk about in that Friday show we do at ADCC, and I think it's a really cool event. And then we have 8 p.m. we have the big press conference that we were supposed to have in 2019, but I think they're actually going to do it this year because it was all set up for it. It just never happened. 8:15 is the meet and greet with the ADCC athletes, and then 9 p.m. that finishes. And then Saturday, 8 a.m. doors open, and then ADCC day one starts at 10 a.m., finishes at 4 p.m. Saturday, starts at noon, doors open at 10 a.m. on Sunday, finishes at 9 p.m. So it's a longer day on Sunday, but Mo's talked about it. He goes, look, it's only every 2 years.
Well, and I think they wanted Saturday to end early because of the boxing match and the football game.
Yeah, there's a lot of other. There's three. There's a Canelo versus Triple G fight. There's a UFC fight. There's a Raiders game happening.
There's a music thing too.
There's some other music. There's a ton of stuff happening in Vegas.
There's a lot of shit going on.
And he wanted a chance for the people that are attending ADCC.
We're not going to miss anything on Thursday night, are we? Because we're going to go see Nine Inch Nails on Thursday night.
That was Wednesday, isn't it?
Oh, that is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday night.
Okay.
So we're going to miss the...
No, we can't. No, it's Thursday night.
Is it Thursday night? Well,
I want to
regardless,
say it's Thursday night because it's after the tournament.
9 a.m. the Open starts, so you gotta we're through the Open by that evening.
Dude, Trent Reznor's old. He's not going to go late.
No,
it's going to be fun.
So that's the schedule we have. That is ADCC. It's going to be awesome. Very excited. Have my flights, booking hotels. It's going to be wild. Do we have any other ADCC news?
We were on a video from ADCC.
Oh yeah, twice in a row. Not really news, but just another haha moment.
Yeah.
I'm in now both Black Belt Slayer documentaries. And I have a speaking part in kind of quotes here. If you want to see the new podcast set, follow us on YouTube. I have a little piece where I'm talking to Jay when he's mic'd up for the Nicky Rod ADCC one.
Yeah.
We are also, you can see a crowd shot of Miranda, me, my wife, Rob. I
think Rob had already left.
Oh, okay. So it's the three or four of us in a big crowd shot. I think they cut in after Keith won.
Yeah, because we look I look
ecstatic.
I look like I am having the time of my life.
And we all know Keith personally. We've watched him over the years.
The only time that I think that I was that happy, was for Keith, only because I was exhausted by that point of the trip. So
it was either Jay, Keith, or Tackett, I think was the moment they caught. But again, it's a cool moment.
Yeah.
We're in that documentary as well. I got like a bunch of DMs from people like, hey, you're in this one too.
Yeah.
And I went, cool.
Yeah.
So that's funny news. Again, other news.
The IBJJF Grand Prix they announced.
we have who's in that now.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Let me pull up the picture here. We have the women's division. We have Bia Wasilio, Natalia Ribeiro, Anna Rodriguez, and Theon Davies. That's going to be fucking fun.
Yeah.
Men's division, we have Gabriel Argis, Ronaldo Jr., Leandro Lowe, and Mateus Luna for the men's medium heavyweight.
And then they also have super fights.
2 super fights. We have Felipe Andrew versus Herber Santos, that's actually a match that'll be super fun because Herber, again, you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get. It's always exciting. And then we have Andy Murasaki versus Levi Jones Leary. So that's going to be, I'm excited for that. I hope that this one doesn't run as much of a clusterfuck as it was the previous one.
Yeah.
Where they did the Hall of Fame ceremony between the finals and had a 2-hour break. And the pacing for the GPs has always been weird because they're running women's and men's and having some super fights. I think they're going to run it like a card now. I hope they run it
like a card and by itself as opposed to trying to run it.
Well, it's also not running at Masters Worlds, and I think they're running it as its own thing now, and I'm very happy about that because the pacing for the previous ones was horrific and was you were unable to watch it live.
Okay.
So we did watch it live, and it was there was hours of break between matches, and it was like, what are we doing here? So hope this one runs more effectively because I'm going to watch the whole thing, and I'd much rather it be, produced in a way where I can watch it and not hate myself. So there's that. We also have a card for who's number one, the Felipe Pena versus Gordon Ryan match that again is one of 4 matches I want to see for Gordon, and super happy about that. Gordon Ryan versus Felipe Pena is the main event for that. We have Nicholas Meregali versus Rafael Lovato Jr. That's assuming a no-gi match because Lovato just retired from the gi at IBJJF.
Isn't all who's number one? Because who's number one also.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Who's number one also does wrestling. Because they do a wrestling event normally. I think it's either day before or day after, but I don't know if they still do that or not. But they did at the beginning.
Okay.
Because it used to be a wrestling event.
Well, it was a wrestling event first.
Yeah,
because that was we saw Nicky Rod versus Pat Downey. That was a who's number one.
Oh,
event. And that was it was like a high school event that they were seeding guys to see who had the number 1 spot, and that's what it was.
And I think they were also doing it during COVID as something for them to do.
Okay.
Because they wanted the top level guys to not
get rusty and kind of take time off.
To do something.
The Margaulie versus Lovato match is fun. I'm really excited to preview that because there's a lot of. That's one you can definitely make an argument for either way, and it's very, very interesting, especially because it's being Margaulie's 3rd no-gi match.
Yeah.
And that, again, asks so many X factors there.
Against somebody who is a very talented...
Who has won ADCC.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lovato is no joke, and it'll be...
But he is Dad Lovato now.
Dad, father now. He's got a brain thing. He's retired from MMA. There's a ton of X factors. I'm very excited. That's a cool matchup to talk about. We have Michael Galvao versus Alan Sanchez. We have Bia Mosquito versus Elizabeth Clay. Jacob Couch versus Jay Rodriguez. That's a fun match.
Yeah, that's a fun match.
Diego Hayes versus Esteban Martinez, Giant Slayer, and Fabricio Andre versus Fabian Ramirez.
Giant Slayer won his Austin Summer Open
Oh, he was at
Rooster
that
class.
Okay,
He won Rooster
awesome.
in adult.
I missed.
He
his
has
run
some
there.
crazy hair now. Like he's grown it out, and he has this huge, like,
Even longer since ADCC.
yeah, it's crazy.
it's
So
wild.
he has like this crazy big hair now.
I haven't had a chance to catch his matches in probably a couple of months, so
Yeah.
I will. No, I saw a highlight of him
He's
a couple
always
days
fun.
ago.
He's always fun.
Yep. We also have coming up, probably won't cover it on the show, but Uriah Faber also got announced for a combat jiu-jitsu match versus Elias Anderson in December in Cancun, Mexico. So it'll be his combat jiu-jitsu
That'd be
debut. I'm not sure if we're going to end up covering it or not, but a lot of people that watch the show are into combat jiu-jitsu, so
I might steal your wife and go.
she keeps talking about you're going to go to Cancun.
I know.
I'm like, if you guys go to Cancun,
Yeah.
I want to go to Cancun too. She's like, nah, girls trip. And I'm like, oh, all right. So other than that, we had some other pieces of news.
So I had that. I had schedule released.
Yep.
We had Daisy Fresh getting a new house.
Yeah, they finally are
Or not a
in
new house, but a new gym.
a new gym that's not the laundromat. That's a little less decrepit.
Yeah, it's a YMCA with 2 floors. So it's better for them. Which
And they're
is
still sleeping on the
great.
mats, I think. But it's a
Well, some of them moved to the houses. So they have like
Right.
2 houses that have like 15 people a house. Like they're literally sleeping all over the place in the houses.
they're fighter houses.
Yeah, basically. So and then, but I think that's it for news.
So let's talk about the Tim Spriggs news now.
Yeah.
So you kind of dug into because Tim has his own podcast,
Yeah.
and occasionally he'll talk about kind of the goings on behind the scenes.
So yeah,
of what's happening.
and we were trying to figure out a little bit more about the whole situation. So I went back and listened to BJJ Goons,
which is his podcast.
And yeah, it seems like maybe at first they were offering Gordon Ryan as the other coach, and that he was a little bit more into that, and he would go against Gordon Ryan, and then maybe something changed. And it just seemed like a lot of contractual issues that were going on. He's not very happy with Flo, and he's very
vocal about
his unhappiness with Flo.
I mean, they stripped him. Regardless, he was the title the champion for that.
Yeah.
And then they stripped him of that, and he also didn't have a match on that finals thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
they were setting him up to like fight and do something that he was obviously very unhappy about, and so
Yeah.
he went, "No, I'm good."
He also seems to be kind of transitioning towards pro wrestling. I heard
think
that
in a big way.
I heard that on one, and then on a whole nother podcast, he goes into how he's more of a rounded martial artist. He doesn't want to be stuck in the world of jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So I mean, it seems
This
like
could be a transition out.
Yeah,
it's
it's like a feeling out period maybe for him to see what he wants to do.
It's interesting though, kind of like,
You know?
and if you are gonna end and retire again, wherever the circumstances are, your last match being a win over Kainan Duarte, who's a guy that's probably going to go on to have a pretty, and has already, even as a young black belt, had a pretty phenomenal career. Not a bad place to end your kind of run as a jiu-jitsu guy. Again, there's more matches I would like to see, just plenty more matches I would like to see Tim in, especially after that match. If he's, if he can contend at the highest levels, which he's shown he can, I want to see more of him. So it's unfortunate to, have him be stripped of the title and then leave. But, if you don't like the contracts, I don't want anyone to ever have to fight out of a contract they don't like. So, respecting him for that. As a fan, though, I would just I think they're really interesting matches. The rematch with Craig Jones, the rematch with Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
That I would like to see him in, and it seems like we're probably not going to see those, especially if he's pulling out of ADCC and getting stripped of the Who's Number One title.
Yeah.
So that's sort of Spriggs news. Again, could see him come back. He's retired before. He's come back before. So
Yeah.
MMA and jiu-jitsu retirements, we all know what those are.
Yeah. They don't last very
They don't
long.
last very long. So again, we'll see.
Fighters are fighters.
Fighters are fighters.
Yeah, it's the only way to explain
So
that.
I don't think we have any other news. Let's move into the main event here for what are they calling it now? Tesla's Who's Number One, the Who's Next final.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You have who-
finale.
You have who twice in the title.
Yeah,
Maybe switch it up.
And
a little
then
bit.
if you read it, the winner of who, it's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of the word who. We're asking a lot of questions here.
Yes,
So
lots of
main
questions.
event, Gordon Ryan versus Pedro Marinho. Gordon Ryan cut the weight.
Yep.
So Gordon Ryan weighed in at, I think Pedro weighed in at 215. Gordon weighed in at 223.
Yeah.
And then Gordon, on his own volition, cut down, I think, to at least 218, if not 215. I saw him
He
on the
took-
scale
he
day
took-
of 218.
Yeah, 218 was the scale, and he took a picture of it. Or he
So
did
it's like
whatever
he
did.
cut within at least 3 pounds of Pedro, and I just laughed. I'm like, man, he really doesn't want people complaining about any excuses when he wins.
He's also a big man, so cutting that much weight is not a problem.
No. But then, and he outsized Pedro pretty significantly in the match, even though if they weighed the same, like you could tell. And Gordon kind of mentioned it in one of his post-fight interviews. Like Pedro, although was the same size, Gordon is still much bigger in stature and
Yeah.
like probably, I would assume, the stronger guy in that matchup. Gordon posted a lifting video like last week. I think we talked about it a little bit, and we extrapolated from that what his max bench was,
Yeah.
and it was a fun little exercise. And the Grappling Around team teaches Maine how to read a bench press chart.
Dude, I don't know how that shit works.
It was very funny.
I don't even know what I bench press. I literally just make him put the weight on it.
It was just
and
very
I
fun
do
to
it,
have
so I don't
Austin,
know.
Rob, Zach, and Josh like teach Maine via text of like, this is how to read a bench press max chart. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that's cool.
no.
A bunch of guys that are very into sports,
I
lifting
just-
and like information.
I just ignored it.
So, where do you want to start with this match? Basically, allegedly on the side of the mat, Caio Terra was basically either telling Pedro or telling Gordon that he shouldn't wrestle with Pedro because Pedro's wrestling was good. And Gordon Ryan seemed to have taken that as a personal challenge
Well, I
and
mean,
out wrestled Pedro Marinho. And he really slick kind of outside standing back take to take him down.
but it was the same foot trip as
Bordoni.
Bordoni did in the card
Yeah.
too. It was the same foot
Tony
trip.
posted a compilation of like them
Yeah.
back to back, and they looked
Well,
strikingly
if you
similar.
ever look at all that team and their competitions for a tournament, they generally all move the same way. Like they
Yeah.
all have very similar movements.
You can tell those. It's really interesting. They're one of the few teams that everyone does things pretty much the same way.
Yeah,
In like
yeah.
in a odd way for a jiu-jitsu team. Like
Yeah.
you can tell they're in the room learning the same techniques, drilling the same things.
Generally, you can get a little feel for somebody. You can know, okay, it's a 10th Planet guy. This is what you
Yeah,
should
correct.
expect. But
Or he's
you
a
don't
Lovato
get,
guy, six-blade
but
guy.
you don't get exactly the
same technique. Like Bordoni and Gordon, it was
Yeah.
that you're looking at the same technique.
Well, and then
there.
you watched Margaulie
Mm-hmm.
almost do the same sub that Gordon wanted.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, it is an interesting,
interesting.
kind of style of team there.
Yeah.
So takes him down, and then really just like passes the guard, goes to mount, and then spends.
no, he doesn't just pass the guard. He passes the guard and then goes back to the guard and then passes the guard and then goes back to the guard.
He addressed it in this second post, not the on the mat
Yeah.
post video. There's a 9-minute interview with Gordon that Josh told me to listen to, and then I made Miranda listen to.
Yeah, you did.
That is insightful about his game plan for the event
Yeah.
and kind of future matches. He
It's where he
decides
makes-
to
it's
go
where he
back.
makes the Caio Terra comment too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Gordon goes to the mount, and then he kind of like at a certain point in the match decides to like give Pedro hope and goes back into his guard to give him breathing room to then pass again and keep looking for this, because Gordon basically did the
I think
thing.
everyone needs to know my eye roll, that, just in case you're listening and not being able to look at my eye roll, the eye roll that
You're
I
not
just
openly
provided.
the biggest fan of some of Gordon's tactics.
I'm not.
So Gordon did the card thing where he gives a card to the commentators that open up after the match, and it was a smothered choke, and it was obvious probably like 3 minutes in, less than that. Like once he gets like, oh, he's going for the smother. Like,
Yeah,
he's obviously going
yeah.
for the smother, and he gave Pedro credit because like,
Well, we just watched Margaulie do it.
yeah.
So,
But if Pedro figured out, like he puts his arms under the armpits and lifts them up, he has enough daylight to breathe and not get smothered. And so then Gordon, basically, somebody in the crowd yelled at him that he had 5 minutes left, and he was like, "Oh, better win!" And then took his back and then choked him. And it was Pedro Marinho's really fucking good.
yes.
We've seen Pedro Marinho truck dudes at a high level. We've seen him beat like Cyborg, close match, but like beat Cyborg. We've seen him like. I have difficulty describing how good Pedro Marinho is, and then Gordon kind of seemingly at will could impose from top position on him and then take his back sort of at will and choke him. And then Gordon basically called out the entire community and went, everyone's fucking terrible. Y'all got to get better. And watching that, I kind of went, might have a point. Like, he's very, very good. And Pedro is also one of the guys of the upper echelon of the sport This is a rematch from ADCC 2019, where Gordon heel hooked Pedro. I don't know what else to kind of glean from this match as part of like the landscape here. Do you have any thoughts other than we just want to talk about who wants to face next?
I don't have any positive thoughts on this situation.
So later in the interview, Gordon basically goes through who wants to fight next. I thought it was really interesting who wants to fight next. He basically wants the Leandro match back. And if you don't know, Gordon Ryan lost to Leandro Lo as a super fight in trials for ADCC in 2015 or 2013. I think 2013. Something like that. U.S. trials.
If you click on his name, his record will come up.
Good point there. Let me do that. And then he also wants to get a match back with Vinny Magalhães. Leandro, 2017 West Coast trials.
On points.
I messed that one up. I got that one about many years. And then he also wants the Vinny Magalhães match back. The Vinny Magalhães match was back in, I think, 2018. Yeah, 2018 at ACBJJ, and that was a points match. But basically, he's like, yeah, Vinny was Vinny's one of the few guys that was actually willing to fight me, but he had an MMA fight, and so he couldn't. And so I want that match back.
There was another loss down there too. Go down.
Tex Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah, Tex Johnson, but he beat Tex Johnson at at Substars.
Tex is out.
Yeah, Tex is retired now,
Yeah.
but he beat him at Substars like 30-0 and submitted him with an arm triangle.
Good to know.
Yeah. So he's basically going back and getting the matches back. Then he wants to face like Victor Hugo and Lovato, which I thought was an interesting name because like that legend status that Lovato has.
Yeah.
And he wants to take the Pena match, and then he wants to go and beat the guys that he hasn't beaten yet by sub. So he wants to go back and face Hulk again.
He needs to go back against Buchecha because he only won on a penalty.
Yeah, but Buchecha I think he's retired now. Out of that, and
he's just doing MMA now.
I think so. Yeah, he's had another fight in ONE FC.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then he wants to fight basically in a couple of years, like Ty and Micah, once they're bigger.
Yeah.
And
you should fight them together.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Same time, I think they beat him, but like back to back. And that's so one of the threads on Reddit. Somebody was like, he should just next one FC Gordon. I want to see 100 hobbyists in a row.
Well, we were discussing this, and he did do what was it?
It was a quintet.
It was a quintet where he went through an entire team.
I think he went through or like 4 or 3 of them. I know Lachlan went through an entire team.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I think the Kinetic one he came in late because he only beats 3 people at Kinetic Kinetic here. Quintet
there
3.
It is.
I don't know what division
3,
it was.
4, 5, 6. Absolute.
Yeah, but I can't tell if those were the same team or not for that. I think it was Quintet 3. He might have done that. Regardless, that's kind of the only way I think you're going to see Gordon take a loss is in a format like that.
Where you have just a bunch of people in a row.
A bunch of fresh guys in a row versus him.
I think there's one other option. I think we take Micah Galvao. We gave him like...
everything.
We give him like
just everything you can
drugs.
Take. Everything you can take.
The HGH.
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
And then maybe.
We have him train 2
I
or
think
3 times
stylistically it's a really interesting match.
And then we get him to like 200 pounds. And then we put them against each other.
I think like 230. I think would be good.
Okay, 230.
I'm like 230.
Okay.
Because like stylistic, I think the way that Micah like passes and maintains mount and like the pace that he pushes, I would be really curious to see. I'm kind of hoping that they meet in absolute. Gordon can't do absolute this year because he's got him super fight champion. So in my head, there's a bunch of guys in other divisions in ADCC that I'm like, oh, Gordon can fight them this year. And I keep forgetting that he can't do the open weight. Because he's going to fight Galvao, and if he wins the super fight, the open weight, he can't fight himself in the following year if he beats Galvao, so they're not going to let him do it.
I think they both need to go against each other, and then they both need to submit their blood afterwards so we know what they're on.
I can be on it.
Just out of curiosity.
Just so I can, it's going to glow. It's going to glow in the cup, and I want to know.
I want to know exactly what it is.
So the only other way, this is a wrench that might get thrown in. The only way Gordon might do open weight is if for some reason they let the super fight happen on Saturday. So then Sunday.
Can you change the page? Because I don't like the way he looks at me there.
we have Gordon Ryan's profile pic. Kevin Gordon's just staring at Miranda.
Staring at me, and I don't like that.
The only way that happens is if they run the super fight first, which I do not think they would do. I think they would kind of like seemingly disrespect Galvao like that. But that's the only way that it might happen. And then Gordon could do the open weight if he loses to Galvao that first day.
I roll again.
So, regardless, let's move on. Gordon's very good. I do not know who will even come close to beating him in the near future. Pedro is one of the top upper echelon black belts in the sport and did not have an answer
Maybe
for
Gordon
the pressure.
needs to put on the gi.
I kind of want to see it now. At this point, like
Maybe he needs to put on the gi.
he's
and
so much. If he wins,
we need to see him go through the gi divisions.
yeah. It's kind of like the only piece. I think in another year he can go through the guys that he talked about on that list that he wants to face.
Yeah.
I think it flows like, hey, the champion now, and like we're gonna make these matches and make them happen.
Yeah.
Like and have him headline every who's number one card for the next year.
Yeah.
I kind of like he is so much better than everyone in Nogi by like astonishing margin. That's really the only thing I'm kind of interested in. It's like, okay, well, once he beats those guys, because I can't see any fathomable way that they beat him, put on,
Let's
put on the gi.
Let's move on now. Let's move on.
Moving on. Do you want to do Isaac Michelle and Kyle Chambers right now, or do you want to save it after that?
We're going to save it at the end because
I got a fucking rant.
You got a
about
rant
that.
And
that was a no time. In case you didn't watch it,
okay.
It was a no time limit match
And
that I have thoughts on.
We are going to move on to Big Dan versus Tristan Overig.
Broke his leg in half.
Yeah, we heard the pop and
I played it for everyone at the gym. They're like, I broke his leg. Like, what happened? I was like, I pulled the video up.
It was definitely a fibula or a tibia.
I think it was a tibia.
You think it was a tibia?
Because I don't really know what bones are. So I basically
it's a tibia?
Big Dan inside heel hook, right?
Yeah, and it was just it was wicked.
It was
And you just heard the pop.
it was quick too.
Yeah. That's what happens.
And Big Dan seemed apologetic and seemed like unhappy about it, which
really, in all honesty, wasn't really defending. He was just trying to get out, but he wasn't.
And Kristen in the Who's Number One like show talked about like not wanting to tap to stuff.
He's also an MMA fighter, and they're a different breed.
And notoriously, like I've run them in competition, like they don't like to tap to stuff. I've trained with them, they don't like to tap it.
Yeah.
So broke. We don't really. You looked up kind of in parse the internet
I tried to see if I could get him to say anything or release anything about what happened, or
is it a break? Is it a snap?
Or show
what's the injury?
pictures, or because most of the time, like especially with something like this, they normally put up the X-ray because the X-ray is gonna be horrible.
Yeah, and you're gonna also everyone kind of is continuing to ask you. You can kind of throw into that post like, here's the X-ray of the injury.
Yeah.
Now now I can just focus on recovery, and I'm not fielding these.
Yeah,
messages.
but I haven't seen anything. So
I'm guessing it's tibia. It was a very loud. It sounded again. The mics weren't great.
It sounds like a somebody hitting a home run.
It sounds like a bone break.
Yeah.
Because the ligament break, it's hard on mic. Like when you're live in a venue.
No, that was a bone break. It was loud as hell.
When you're in a venue, like you can hear the difference. With a bone break in a venue, like it's a specific sound.
Yeah, I was in a Grappling Industries tournament. I don't know how many years ago, and somebody had their arm broken from your gym.
Yep, I was there.
And,
I was mat side for that.
And
I wasn't coaching, but I was. His arm got broken here. I was standing there.
Yeah.
And Rachel had to compete next, and she did not like that.
I was on the other side, and I heard it, and it was like one of those. I mean, it was
a Kimura. It was with a Kimura. So it was a spiral break.
Yeah, and it was loud, and we all heard it.
Yep, I've seen a bunch of breaks live. I've seen I watched Valor break his arm live. I was mat side for that. Rachel was mat side for that. I've seen a bunch of guys dislocate stuff. I've seen compound dislocations. I've seen a bunch of toe hold injuries. I've seen an internal dislocation of a toe hold injury.
Nice.
Yeah, and again, over the years, you do this long enough. Yeah. You're at enough events like we are. You get used to when stuff goes bad, what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I was live mat side when Fionn broke Pia's arm.
Yeah.
It was that live for that. So.
Well,
unfortunate. Wish him the best of luck.
Yeah.
Big Dan showed once again that if he is in a size parity match, his leg lock game is very good.
Yeah, and it was something.
Mm-hmm.
So we move on to Giancarlo Bordoni versus Jay Rodriguez.
This shit was fucking wild.
And we kind of, on our last podcast, we kind of screwed this up a little bit. This was a rematch.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't. I don't. Either we didn't realize it was a rematch, or we just completely forgot.
I just forgot.
I think we forgot.
Because the first one was on.
He was number one.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the same format. That's the sad part about this. And what's even funnier is towards the end of the podcast, I made a comment about the whole rape choke to keep him away.
Yeah.
And that was the two of them.
Uh huh. I know.
So I even mentioned the freaking match.
I went back and watched. I was like, oh yeah, yep. Because I think somebody DM'd us. By the way, if we ever mess something up, always feel free to DM us at Grappling
shoot us a message
on Instagram. Be like, hey guys.
Sometimes we record this late at night, and like I've already trained.
We always record this late at night.
Yeah.
It's 9:15 right now. This podcast comes out in 2.5 hours.
I've already worked 8 hours and trained for a couple. So yeah, I'm pretty tired by this.
So sometimes you're getting us on a late Monday.
Yeah.
So if we mess this up, DM us.
Times.
Follow us on Instagram. You can we post stuff there, and you can DM us when you hear mistakes. Let us know. We try to keep the show pretty tight.
Yeah.
With mistakes, but again,
it happens.
You do 250 of these shows. It crops up occasionally. So this was Giancarlo imposing on J-Rod for 12 minutes.
Yeah, it was a while.
It was most of the match, and it was J-Rod fighting hands from the back, fighting off chokes, fighting variations of rear naked chokes, fighting the hooks off. And it was Giancarlo in the driver's seat until what? A minute?
No, it was a couple minutes.
2 minutes maybe? Wasn't very long left in the match.
It wasn't that. It was a 15-minute match. I would say maybe the first 10. And then because there was a lot of like Jay passing, and then there was Jay getting Giancarlo's back, and that was at the last 15,
you're right. It was
seconds.
kind of a neutral. No, there was some neutral.
There was a little back and forth for a bit, and then Jay took Bordoni's back.
So
we all went, holy shit.
It was it was minutes of Jay in deep waters with Giancarlo on his back looking for a finish, and Jay, a couple of them, he just gutted out. Yeah. Where I was like, oh, he's just going to be tough here and just not going to
He's just going to take the neck injury.
And then get Giancarlo's back, and I went, oh my God, is he going to do it?
Yeah.
And there was one rear naked choke here that got close. And it was, again, Bordoni going, no, I'm just going to not tap. And I'm going to fight the hands down and pull the hands down. That's really what we see.
And at that point, when you're in the last minute of a match and you're at that level, I think you're just going to go out. In really honesty, you're going to fight that shit.
Especially when you're up by the margin that Bordoni was up, because he had been dominant.
I mean,
he was very clearly winning in dominating fashion that match.
Yeah.
For Jay to then come back from behind, get his back, you knew that Bordoni was going to go, I'll take it to the last moment here. And again, he's a world-class competitor. Usually those guys are willing, especially on the younger side, are willing to really put it on the line in every single match.
Yeah.
And then Jay was unable to finish. But he did a great job. And it's something we're seeing a lot of guys do. It's the way you defend a rear naked choke sort of at the high levels is guys reach back, and we're seeing a lot of people peel at the fingers.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because technically you can't grab the fingers, but
you can grab all the fingers.
You can grab all of them, and then if you pull down, you're really only pulling at the pinky and the ring finger and the next finger individually, and so it forces the grip open on the rear naked choke when someone's trying to submit you with it.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting rule loophole where it's although technically you're grabbing all the fingers, you're significantly putting pressure, and you'll break the fingers if they don't move the hand. And so it's this weird allowed small joint manipulation that you can do of the fingers that we only really see in rear naked choke defense, where guys are reaching back and just don't care. Cool, the ref's going to call me for grabbing the fingers. He's already choking me. Either I do this or I get submitted, so I don't really care. And it's this weird thing that I've been noticing for a while now, but I think I never brought up on the show.
Yeah, no one calls it either.
Yeah, because
I've never seen it called.
Technically, you're grabbing the whole hand.
Yeah.
You're just putting pressure down on the tops of the fingers, and it's pulling the pinkies and the small joints away. It's just a really interesting little gray area, and I'm curious in 10 years or more if we're going to have a rule change that addresses that, because it's one of the few areas where you can not technically grab the fingers.
Whatever.
It's interesting. So
but there's a difference between that and grabbing a finger.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's not banned. That's why no referees call it. I just think it's a very interesting thing that is how everyone at the high level now is getting out of the rear naked choke. When it's in deep, they're grabbing the fingers in the hand and pulling it off and pulling the grip off. That's the way that they're doing it. There is no other way.
Well, besides the fact that all jiu-jitsu people have messed up fingers. I don't care who you are. We all fuck up our fingers.
I've been taping them for a while now, and this one's still not great.
Yeah. Anyway, so
next match.
Are we going to Max Hanson versus Fabian Ramirez?
Let's go to Andrew Tackett and Rene Sousa first. And then let's do Margaulie, and let's do that match after that. Dude, Tackett looked fucking stellar here.
He did.
A couple of different takedown sequences where he just kind of scooped the front leg and just ran Rene down. Like seemingly, and that's what they discussed is Rene's wrestling, and Tackett absolutely was in the driver's seat on the feet. And that was sort of what we expected, is Tackett to really be able to put a pace on Rene, because we talked about in the show last week, Rene's strategy of sort of in longer matches, wearing you down a little bit and kind of letting you work, and then countering in his counter offense. Yeah. We were curious to see how, if he would decide to implement that same game plan versus Tackett.
And the other thing is they trained a lot together. Tackett came up to 10th Planet in Bethlehem and lived with Rene for a bit. So they know each other's style. They know how to beat the other one. So it was interesting to see Andrew Tackett in kind of a full display of his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, really. I mean, he was able to counter Rene and then get to his back and then, lock the choke in, and really was able to get around everything that Rene put up. And you can tell Rene was kind of looking for the leg locks there.
Yeah.
But Tackett was able to stay away from it, stay on top, stay around him, go north-south, and, was able to eventually get the back off of that. And just a really, really impressive display from Tackett. And we're seeing more and more of him. We're seeing, again, this is another match where you're seeing big improvements from Tackett. Who's number one on the show? Who's next? Like, he looked good. We saw his match versus Big Dan.
Another thing that Spriggs said was they actually didn't train as much on the show as you would have thought they did.
It was only a week, though.
Yeah, that they weren't, I guess he was wanting them to do a lot more training, and they weren't.
I thought Spriggs didn't roll with his team, though. That was kind of the criticism.
They showed a couple pictures of him rolling with them.
Okay.
But, I don't think they trained a lot during that.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, it was only 7 days, and you're filming the show, and they had all the challenges, and it's like, I assume that if you wrestle a bull one day, you're probably not going to go and train the same day.
Yeah.
Would be my thought.
And then the next day, you're going to have Tim Kennedy beat you up and have to shoot a gun. So, yeah.
So it's like,
it wouldn't sense,
surprise me because that wasn't really the focus of the show. It was like, how much better are you really going to make guys in a week? They all train at high level camps anyway. True. Like Craig Jones is half their coach anyway. Like, how much better are you really going to make these guys in 3 or 4 seminars? So
when I think about it, that makes sense. I keep on thinking, for whatever reason, I think because it's so close to
The Ultimate Fighter.
And that's
a whole month.
Yeah, that I keep on thinking it's more like The Ultimate Fighter, and it's not. It was a week. It wasn't a month or however long they shot that for.
Right. So the Ultimate Fighter being so much longer, like, you're going to get 20, 25 training sessions probably in, if not more, at a pro level, like jiu-jitsu.
Well, and they're competing every week. They're not competing like every day.
Right.
You know,
these guys are competing every day, every other day. So it makes sense. So that, again, we're seeing more and more from Tackett. Absolutely would not surprise me to see Tackett as an alternate in ADCC. Mo talked about this week, basically, and again, it came out. It wasn't just him. It was actually a public post that was, I don't really care if you placed at trials if you're boring. Like,
I saw that post
too.
The
sport is moving on from just like, are you the best guy that can win? Like, versus, are you a guy that can impressively win and like are doing the things in the sport? Well, are you looking to impose
and put on a show?
And put on a show. Like, it's 80s grappling is becoming a professional sport. And if you're just going to wall install to a decision win that's not exciting, maybe the organizations are not looking for you to go do that. I'd much rather have a guy that is close to as good that will fight like Gary Tonin and Husama Palhares or the Tackett brothers or Gordon or like one of those guys than have a guy that's going to maybe win on an ad or like a decision after a match. Like, I'm going to watch one match with excitement. I'm going to watch one match.
I feel like that's also a gi thing. I think in gi, that's a lot more common.
Yeah.
No-gi, you can still stall a no-gi, but it's a lot more difficult to stall.
And we're seeing like more activity. We're seeing the sport generally in no-gi move to understanding that it is a spectator. We want to make money here, so it has to be a spectator product, so you have to move. And the guys that are the really boring, slow grapplers that maybe just are winning on pressure, we're not seeing those guys booked as much because I don't want to see them fight. Or most of the fans don't want to see them fight. And so I think we're starting to see a progression and we're moving towards. So Tackett, to make the bigger point, I think Tackett is a guy that pushes a style and a pace that it would not surprise me to see him, like his brother in 2019, be a weighed-in alternate for 66 or 77, probably 77.
Is he 77, you think?
I don't think he's 66. He's bigger now.
Yeah,
But again,
I don't know how big he
it
is.
wouldn't.
Click him.
It
Click
wouldn't.
him and tell
I
us.
forget. Wait, this match was at.
Yeah, you can. Well, that match wasn't. It was absolute, but we could see what
It was open weight.
Yeah, we can see. We can see what weight.
But him and Rene
he's
were
competed at.
him
in
and
the
Rene
past.
were pretty similar.
They're about the same size.
Yeah, pretty. They were.
He was
pretty
definitely
close.
the smaller.
170.
He is 170.
Yeah. Back in 2020, he's 55, but he was like 15 there.
Yeah.
Or
and-
14, 16 there, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
And he kind of bumps around. So.
170, who's number one?
But
Craig
most of
Jones,
it-
Mike
yeah.
Galvao, he was 173. Again, it wouldn't surprise
Yeah.
me to see him at 77. Make the cut to
77.
50. I mean, that would be a big cut for him. But for ADCC, he's young enough that it wouldn't surprise me to see him make the cut. But
Yeah.
again, much like his brother, for him to be a weighed-in alternate with his
Yeah.
style wouldn't surprise me with the performances he's been putting on.
That makes sense.
So, next match, let's talk about Nicholas Meregali and Breylor Grout.
And Margaulie was a last minute replacement.
He was, and it was a guy that Braylor had
Yeah.
asked for, which props to
did.
him, man.
He
That's
did.
Braylor's dope brown belt. I got a chance to see more of his matches this week before we hadn't watched a ton of him
okay.
on the show. He's good, and this is Margali's second nogi match,
Yeah.
so it kind of gives you kind of reasons why he was going to come in as a
you also have to
replacement.
remember that Breylor Grout comes from
Legion,
Legion. Which is
Keenan's gym.
Keenan's gym. And Keenan and Margaulie had that match back in the day. That was, the greatest match of jiu-jitsu.
I thought it was a good match.
Some people say that. It's good.
I thought it was a good fucking
It
match.
is. It is good. It is a good match. I'm just being.
It was in the gi, Miranda. We get it.
I'm being a smartass.
So
but yeah,
Margali's second nogi match
Yeah.
ever. His first match was against Arnaldo Maidana.
Yeah.
A year ago or so, or something like
Recently.
something like one of the who's number one cards.
Yeah.
And Margaulie looked good. I was curious to see if Braylor would really go into the leg locks, and he kind of did for a second. Margaulie had a very good but basic response
Yeah.
to the heel hook attempt. Came up to the top, hid the heel, kind of sat there in top of the kind of quarter guard mount, reversed, before eventually sliding over. Beautiful hip switch passing sequence over to get to north-south, and then got to mount, got to Ketakatame.
He also had a single that he was talking about his wrestling and how he was improving his wrestling.
Yeah,
He
that was
got
interesting
it-
as well.
He got a pretty nice single, which I don't think we've seen from him before,
We've seen it before. It's not
but not exactly like that.
not exactly like
Yeah.
that. It was like
But
it
it
was
was
definitely
pretty
like a
sweet.
no-gi single,
Yeah.
and that you could tell that it was something that he was working on and something that he was happy to work on in the match, kind of like the Maidana match, where
Yeah.
he just did some stuff in that match that was like, oh, this is not his A game. This is him feeling out what competitive no-gi feels like versus a guy that's very experienced. And it looked a little similar here, where it's he wasn't just trying to crush through Braylor, and he was trying to spend a little time on the mat, trying to not open up, but get a better feel in going into ADCC, force get a couple
Yeah.
mat time under his belt.
Yeah.
But again, looked good. He defended the legs well. I do think watching this match, I think that if you are going to beat Margaulie and nogi,
Go his legs.
go to his legs.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, because again, it was good response, but it was
Delayed. It was a delay.
It was delayed, but it was measured.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It looked like something that he had been working through.
Yeah.
It didn't look like the rest of Margaulie's game, where
Yeah.
it's just rote and you go here, I do, and
Yeah.
the movements looked like step A, step B, step C, which is kind of what Gordon's leg lock defense looked like. So I'm not sure how much I want to read into that, but it didn't look fluid. Like he was amazingly comfortable in those positions. It seemed like he was defending.
He wanted to get out.
Yeah, he wanted to get out. It wasn't, was very happy to not sit there and get out of that situation, control from top pressure, get to mount, get to Kesekatame, and then finish.
He did the wonderful smother choke.
He did it was really like it's the Kesekatame. It's the crunch up.
Yeah. And then there were two other matches on the card. Max Hanson wins against Fabian Ramirez.
Split decision, close match. I kind of gave it pretty clearly to Max. Fabian definitely put up a great performance here, but it seemed for me it was more of Max in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Although credit to Fabian for it takes two to tango. It was definitely a close match. Couldn't see it as a split decision, but
and then Mike Rakishan beat Spencer
Fascia Surat. That was a match on the card
versus by the Camel Crusher.
Yeah, it got a little weird at the end with the interview, and it was not. I think I wasn't. It didn't paint jiu-jitsu in a great light.
Really?
Would have preferred it.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't.
I
The
don't
interview
care.
thing.
I mean,
yeah,
it-
no. Don't fuck with Kendall like that. That was weird to me.
Eh.
I thought it was.
You gotta shoot your shot sometimes.
I didn't think it was. Yeah, I thought it was poor taste to say the least for me. But whatever. People like drama, and it got definitely polarized people one way or the other. So let's talk about it. Co-main event.
Oh. I was
You're
like,
gonna
what are we talking about?
All right, I'm going to go in. So usually
Okay.
on the show, as a general, we'll pull behind the curtain. We try to speak about things pretty positively because it's not really fun, I think, to hear people just be negative about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I have to be pulled back because I am a ginger, so I have tendency to go way in the deep end.
Gloves are off
I get angry
on this match. This was a no time limit finals match that sat at the co-main event slot, and it was a live broadcast that happened before Gordon Ryan and Pedro Marinho. Now, if we've learned anything from Third Coast Grappling and every other promotion that's put on a no time limit match,
Third Coast in December of 2020 had the 57-minute match of Andrew Tackett and Damian Anderson.
and they had to change the rules of that match.
Yeah, because they were about to get kicked out of the venue. But that match, they were absolutely
Homies were hustling.
trying to murder one another. But they had a little mat too. That's Third Coast isn't a big mat like who's number one.
And we've seen matches like that. Like Shugio has some barn burner matches that are really long.
I mean, it was 57 minutes, but I liked watching that 57 minutes.
Yeah.
This was not a
This
two
was
and a half hours.
2 hours and 7 minutes, I think, was the final, or 5 minutes, something like that.
That was it.
So I don't have. So first of all, no time limit matches have their place. I think Who's Next and Shugio, behind closed doors events where you run it and they cut it down to something that is watchable and viewer friendly.
Kind of like the show.
If you want to have it like
Did
that, do it. If you want to broadcast a no time limit match, you'll get things like this, and like Gordon and Keenan, and like Damian Anderson versus, like, they can go 3 hours. So you have to have a broadcast plan in place to have that match go for 3 hours. Like, we will talk about Kyle Chambers' strategy here and Isaac Michelle's strategy here, but my issue mainly with this match was you have the most popular dude in grappling in a match that is genuinely interesting versus a champion in Pedro Marinho. It's like, hey, I want to see that match. Put that match before, so if you have the guys that are coming up that are in the no time limit match, you can fucking have the match needs to go 3 hours, have the match go 3 hours.
This was a Thursday night behind the curtain.
It was a fucking work night, too.
It was a Thursday night. I fell asleep.
Yeah.
I fell asleep in the first 20 minutes of the match, and then I woke up, and I looked at the screen, and they were still going, and we were like, maybe at like an hour. And I remember looking at the chat, and all you guys were talking about it, and I go back to sleep, and I wake up, and it's the hold music, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, and I slept through the whole thing.
So you missed the main event.
I missed everything. And then I go and look at our chat, and you guys are talking about a broom closet. And I'm like, why the hell are they talking about a broom closet? And I'm all confused, and it's like early in the morning, and I don't know what the hell's going on. And then I go and watch the Gordon Ryan match because, of course, he won, whatever. And I'm going to watch this match. And I go watching it, and all of a sudden I get the picture-in-picture, and I realize, that match was still going on.
They're fighting in a fucking broom closet in the back with no lights, and no production.
With nothing. And they're showing it picture-in-picture, which is hilarious. And they're basically talking shit about this match while the Gordon Ryan match is going on. They're like, nothing's changed. They're still back there.
It was 2 hours of a 2 hour and 5 minute match of Isaac Michelle on the back of Kyle Chambers while the Gordon Ryan match was going on. And so what pissed me off the most of all of this, so two things mostly did. Three things. A, you have no time match on a Thursday. Like, I have fucking work tomorrow early.
And I talked to at least 5 people that all fell asleep. We all fell asleep during the match.
Fuck, I was looking at the comments, and like 1 in 5 comments are like, I fell asleep. Like, this is a Thursday night card. Like, this is not your time.
And we're talking, this is like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night.
The main event was 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So this match is still going on past midnight.
Yeah.
On a Thursday, not a Friday night where I can, a Thursday night. They ran the match for 90 or 99 minutes before pulling it off to put it in the back to put the main event on. And it's like, fuck, guys, I've already watched the match for an hour and a half. Fucking, we're here at this point. Like, your commentary has run out of shit to say because we've been in the same position for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
When you have Kyle Chambers that no time matches suck. because the first guy to get tired loses. And so both guys operate at a pace that they can maintain forever.
And Kyle did have a triangle at one point.
The triangle was dope.
Yeah.
I mean,
He did-
Kyle
it
played
wasn't-
this
yeah.
like you play this if it's a no-time match. Kyle and Isaac have no obligation to finish this match at speed.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not their job. They have to fight within the rule set
Yeah, so-
that they are given.
So Kyle Chambers did like the Home Alone.
In Home Alone, hands on the face
Home
and the
Alone
back.
and just
He was like,
hung out.
He was wanting Isaac to engage his guard and to like get him chances to enter the legs. Isaac didn't want to do that. You have this on a Thursday night. You have this as not your main event slot. So now the biggest star in the sport is getting iced and pushed back for maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe longer. And then you put him on the mat. After now I don't have a conclusion to the match that I've been watching for an hour and a half live. And then you don't show the final. You don't show it. Like, if you're going to have a match like this, no time limit, you put it as the main event slot, and then it goes for as long as it's going to go, and you're going to broadcast, and that's what you're going to do.
And I think this has been done before, and we've kind of
already learned
we
this
had
lesson.
We had this conversation like a few times before this even started, where we were like discussing how horrible this was going to be, because it's just not a good idea.
No, it has its place, and its place is not on a live Thursday night co-main event slot on the broadcast. It's horrible planning.
And the thing is, when you have two black belts that are both seasoned black belts, this is what happens.
Yeah,
It's
guys at the
just-
high level are hard to submit.
And they're not going to make mistakes. It's just they're not.
And it takes a
they're not
long
gonna
time.
do
And
it.
guess what? That
Now,
triangle
if you-
was deep,
yeah,
and the armbar was
if you
deep,
have like two
and the
blue
choke was
belts
deep.
that are just gonna like freaking murder each other, then it's fun to watch them for maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna fuck up and the other one's gonna take him.
Yep. Purple belt matches are fun for that
Yeah.
reason because guys have great tools, but they also make mistakes.
Yeah.
At the Kyle Chambers is a very good 10th planet black belt. Isaac Michelle is Craig Jones's like prodigy guy at B team that just won the Oceanic Trials for ADCC, like very high level, very good grappler, like a weight class up. You set the card up for failure here by programming it in this way. Because a bunch of people that were going to watch an exciting match between Pedro Marinho and Gordon Ryan fell the fuck asleep.
Yeah.
Like, that's a match that you should, like, you pushed that match and people fell asleep. People left the venue.
You could even do like what Fury did for their first couple cards, where you have the main event like in the middle of the card.
You have dark matches.
Yeah,
essentially.
and then you go and have the other matches later. I mean,
it's fun. Like, you want to have a no time limit match. That is fine. It is extremely not viewer friendly. You, for sure, if you're going to have it, you plan for it to go 4 hours. Because why? Because they can go 4 hours. And you set yourself up to not have to.
Are we going to discuss Kyle Chambers' comment after the match?
We are in a second. Let me bitch for 2 more seconds, then we'll wrap this shit up and move on.
That was my way of saying we need to wrap this shit up.
I watched an hour and a half of this match live with a buddy of mine at the house. And then they pulled that shit off, and they didn't show me the finish. Or they showed it in the broadcast at the end.
Yeah.
But it was like, you had me watch an hour and a half of this match that was Isaac Michelle pretty much dominating in one position. I'm already invested at this point. I've still got the fucking match on. Like, I'm already bought in at this point. If I'm still here, and then you've made all of that time that I've spent watching this match wasted because you don't show me the finish on a broadcast setting.
You should have done like picture-in-picture at least, or
No,
a split
you should have put this as the main event. You put this as the main event. It's a no time limit match. You never put a no time limit match in the middle of your card ever.
Let's think about this. Do you think King Ryan would like to go not be the main event?
I absolutely think he probably didn't want to wait an hour and fucking half. Almost 2 hours
I'm just saying,
for a match to go.
Do you think he's going to be okay not being a main event?
I think it's a no time limit match. He'll go like, if I don't put me. I've had this happen before.
Yeah.
Don't put me as the one after that, because then you have Pedro and Gordon sitting there waiting. Did we get the best performance out of both of those guys because they had to wait an hour and a half? Probably not.
But that's what we all have to do when we go to Naga.
Yeah, they got the Naga experience.
They got the Naga experience.
And that was one of the comments. So moving on. So let's talk about some of the technical aspects of the match. Kyle Chambers played this match from a really, really defensively. Kind of frustrating defensively as a viewer. Again, in no time limit, you first got to get tired. loses. So
Yeah.
he's trying to wear Isaac Michel off. Hey, man, you're going to throw offense at me for 2-3 hours. Eventually, you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're going to slip up. And we saw a couple of times Kyle would enter in a leg lock
Yeah.
and force Isaac to roll out and use a lot of energy. The one triangle armbar he hit
Yeah.
was fucking deep at like 90 minutes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Isaac makes a little bit of an error. He overextends in the guard, and Kyle locks up a super, like a triangle that I was like, he might get him here after being down for 87 minutes of this match. He might finish this. And credit to Isaac Michel, he guts it out and rips out.
Yeah.
Like he was getting it broken or going to sleep in that moment after that match. He gets out of the armbar, and then it's back to Kyle Chambers' back.
Yep.
Kyle Chambers, no incentive to really better his position because it's no time limit. So you're going to only wait for your best opportunity to escape because I don't want to he's not submitting me. I don't want to overextend myself here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the home alone. I'm going to put both hands on the face and defend. And it is, if you've ever rolled with someone whose goal, if you ever had a drill at the gym, where the goal of the person is to just defend, you'll see how hard it is, even if, I'm a brown belt.
Yeah.
I do this drill to a blue belt, and I've got a pretty submission hunting game.
Yeah.
If their job is to just defend and not have me submit them, it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it is extremely hard. Kyle Chambers is a good black belt. It is extremely hard to pull off subs on a good black belt who's focused on defense and not getting tired.
Yeah.
So it's set for failure. Do you have any other kind of technical pieces in this match that you wanted to talk about that you found interesting?
Isaac Michel got a Juju Gatami armbar.
Oh, the finish. Yeah, eventually he did finish in a broom closet in the back with no lights and no commentary.
Which is my favorite armbar ever.
Yeah.
It's like the only armbar I can really hit in real life.
It's a good armbar. It's a very, very tight. So it's armbar off the back, basically falls, shin behind the head, slides off. It's a it's a straight arm lock.
It's a judo arm lock.
It's what Ronda hit on Zingano.
Yeah. I mean, you could roll under them too. If you grab their leg, you can throw their legs over you. Right. But it's one of those arm bars that is super tight, and you don't really have a lot of room to get out of it.
No, especially belly down like that.
Yeah.
It's extremely, because it's a straight arm lock. Because the arm is basically between you and the mat, and you can press all the way down through with your hips and chest as you lift up.
It's like a power armbar.
Yeah.
Because it's on your shoulder. It's on your hip, rather than...
Yeah, very, very good armbar and nice technique. I wish that if you're going to do it, put it at an appropriate space on the card. Have your commentary staff switch and swap out. The commentary got tired after 70 minutes of that. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, we're seeing the same thing.
And what are we going to say?
You also need, or you need a way to stall, or you need stalling penalties, or you need points, or you need some other way to move the match along, or you put it in the main event slot, and you're okay with it being whatever it's going to be, but for fucking sure, don't stop the match an hour and a half in, and then not broadcast the finish of the match 35 minutes later, because I've already watched an hour and a half of it, and if I'm still here, I probably want to see how it ends. I missed 35 minutes of the match that I was like, hey man, I've already watched an hour and a half. Yeah, I'll watch 35 more minutes of this. It's like, why? Because I already watched an hour and a half.
Well, they do have the last 30 minutes in a video if you choose to watch them.
And I will. And I'll watch it. Unfortunately, this match was so bad, it's Monday. I'm still thinking about how bad it was.
I understand. I had to listen or see all your messages while you discussed how horrible this match was.
So that's my rant. Maybe don't need no time limit. Maybe only do Gordon that, because he finishes guys kind of quick. But we learned, again, credit to Isaac Michel. He's the first Who's Next champion. Wins $10,000. Love to see it.
And he got a submission.
3-fight contract.
He also gets a submission, so he gets whatever Tezo points or whatever the
fuck yeah.
Whatever
get him some Tezo
points.
Get him some Bitcoin.
I don't know what the fuck that means, but
it's a crypto sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't know any of that shit.
I'm excited for, again, now we get 3 matches for Isaac Michel. I also thought Isaac Michel so let's talk about the 2 post-fight interviews. Okay. Isaac Michel's comments I really enjoyed. Basically, he went, and he kind of was very understanding of the people were frustrated at the match. Basically like, hey, I've been focusing a lot on ADCC and points. He just won trials. That's, understandable. You don't win trials not focusing on ways to win in that rule set. And he goes, my submissions have, not been what I have been focusing on, and that's obvious. If I ever do a match like this again in the future, I am going to focus much more on my submissions and my finishes, going into this, because I understand that's what I need to do moving forward. Yeah. Kyle Chambers' comment, he made a lot of comments, but the one that kind of, I think, was taken a little out of context, but maybe not so much.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was at all.
It was, he played anti-jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that Isaac played anti-jiu-jitsu. And I think we all came to the conclusion that after 2 hours and so many minutes, that Kyle Chambers' brain must have been a little dehydrated.
A little dehydrated there. And I think I understand what he meant there, was that he wanted Isaac to engage him in areas where, like, there were more submission options.
Yeah.
But it's like,
but
why would he be incentivized to do that?
Yeah,
I can be on the place where you can't submit me at all, and I can have good submission options and control options. Why wouldn't I be there? Why would I sit in your guard in the area that you are extremely strong with the leg locks and with the triangle offense and the dart scheme, like everything that Chambers does so well? Why would I play from that area any moment longer than I had to when I can control you from the area that I am strongest and I have more offensive options? So people got frustrated with that. People got frustrated with Chambers' approach to the defensive way he played the match. Again, it's a rule set issue. I'm not really going to hold it against the athlete. Again, it's not my favorite thing to do. But I understand, like, if you have no time limit match, the first to get tired loses. Why would I expend myself in places that I don't feel like it is necessary to do? So
we're going to move on at this point.
Let's move on to fucking Craig Jones.
Craig Jones, he did the AIGA, which is the Amateur International Grappling Association. Yep. Arlan Grip Pro 18 in Kazakhstan.
And it's an event he's done before.
Yes.
He did it back, I think, right
2016.
before his first ADCC run.
Yeah, it was in 2016.
Yeah. Maybe after his first ADCC run.
Yeah. He said it was, he did an interview and I listened to it, and he's been to Kazakhstan a few times.
Yeah, he's done events over there. He's done a couple of events over there. I think he might have done one of the trials over there early.
He did. And he was talking about it, and he came out in the nice Kazakhstan robe when he did weigh-ins, which was fun.
I think it's a marital robe.
It's a marriage robe.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It is a marriage robe. And then when I was listening, so I watched the whole event because I like the Dagestani guys. I like how they move. So I wound up watching it, and the commentators admitted that their first language is not English. And then kind of went through, and they would make these little jokes as they went on. And
the commentary, so I just watched their Jones match.
Yeah.
The commentary was funny as shit.
Yeah.
Because it was very not like U.S. commentary.
No, it was not at all.
It was like very much, but it wasn't, they were still commentating the match.
Yeah.
But it was definitely.
It was like he has single. Oh no, high crotch. Oh, he down now. And that was like the whole explanation.
It was very funny. And then it was also like they'd go to positions that the commentators weren't a fan of or didn't like, and you'd hear the commentators go, "Oh, he's here now." And
yeah.
You hear open sighs.
You hear the sighs and the scoffing.
There was like a rubber guard at one point. And you said the commentators were like, "Oh, rubber guard."
Yeah.
Or something like that.
It was hilarious.
A little bit of personality from the commentary staff. Again, I probably wouldn't like to hear every single event.
They made a comment that I guess they all wore Kazakhstan tracksuits when they were waiting in the crowd for their matches, like the whole B team, which I thought was hilarious. And they're like, they did it to show, pride for the Kazakhstani people. And I'm like, oh yeah, Craig Jones really did that. I'm sure.
Craig Jones likes going to Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
he talked about they're opening up a B team in Kazakhstan, which is
really
in the post fight.
Oh wow,
yeah.
I didn't hear that.
He's been there a couple. I think he's done a couple of grappling events.
Yeah, he talked about being there a few times.
Yeah.
And it was a fun event.
It was. I actually like the production value. Who do you go against? I missed the guy's name.
He went against Eldar Sayidov.
I didn't want to pronounce his last name.
And he is the #1 grappler in Russia.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, we've seen him on. It's killing me what we've seen him on. He's done a bunch of ADCC Opens.
Yeah, he has.
And
he has.
He's mostly been
AGP.
Yes, more of a regional scene in the Russian area and that in Eastern Europe. He's very good. And Craig Jones, kind of did what Craig Jones we thought he was going to do.
He did.
He pathway to the back. He kind of, interesting enough, Eldar at one point locks up a
toe hold.
Reverse. Well, I didn't think the toe hold was tight, but he was in reverse mount. So Craig Jones is tall. So if you go to reverse mount on Craig Jones, basically, so his feet are locked behind Craig Jones's back, but he is underneath looking at Craig Jones's legs.
Yeah.
So Craig Jones can also lock around, but because Eldar's on the ground, you can't lock your feet underneath and get in this double mount, reverse mount position. Yeah. And so Eldar has access from that position. There's two things you can do. You can fall in for a knee bar, but Craig Jones is going to counter that. Or the toe hold is available to you on the outside leg.
Yeah.
And both legs are the outside leg technically, so you can reach over to one side with your legs triangled around their body, and you can reach for a toe hold. And Craig Jones realized this because this is a position we've actually seen from B-team footage that guys have been in, because it's a dumb position you end up in sometimes, but you have to understand the offense and the defense from it.
But he also knows how to take the back from that position, because that was kind of how he wound up going to the back and
breaks the legs open and then eventually counters and gets on the back and then very quickly finishes a rear naked choke. And that's sort of what we thought was going to happen. It was interesting to see Craig Jones looking to implement his passing here and not sort of the Craig Jones of old of just falling for the legs.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting. And I don't know kind of stylistically why he decided to do that, because Craig Jones, we've talked about him for years, of like, he is the best leg locker in the world. And
I'm trying to think. So it was a 10-minute match. It was ADCC rules. I don't think they got out of the first 5 minutes, because I was about to say
no points time.
There wasn't a points because that would be the only thing I would think of why you wouldn't want to sit back on things, is because if somebody knows the point system well, as soon as you sit back, they stand up, you get points.
Yeah, but it was no points yet, so it was just it was
really
an interesting strategy from Jones here. But again, I like seeing Craig Jones' match. Do you have any kind of more tactical pieces on the match?
No,
it was a match that I had. We kind of went in assuming Craig Jones would win. Yeah. Just because we don't see Eldar in the level of events that we typically see a lot of, like the guys that Craig Jones goes against. It's more so I'm unfamiliar with the guy's game. Not saying that he's not really good. He is very good.
Yeah, and it wasn't a weird rule set where Craig was not allowed to do something, because that's the other time we see Craig
versus Adam Bradley. Sean Brady.
Yeah. We see when you take the legs out, sometimes it gets a little hairy, but but I enjoyed watching it. I wound up watching most of the card. It was fun. They have 2 rules that I found interesting, and I think it would be fun to see it in other tournaments. If you miss weight, they put 4 points on the thingamajig for your competitor. So you
start down 4 points.
You start down 4 points,
which I kind of like, because there's not a lot of money in grappling. So if a guy misses weight, a lot of times there's not really
like a 30% purse, whatever. But
for a guy fighting for $200, you're like, cool, man, you won.
Like 4 points,
you won $40.
4 points, you might get pissed off about it.
Well, 4 points, it impacts the match, and it's not MMA where it's like you can sort of go down. It's grappling still, so starting down points incentivizes you to make weight. You had a funny story about that.
There's a guy, and I didn't write down his name, and really, I didn't have time to go back and find it. But there's a guy who, I guess for a bunch of their events, doesn't make weight, and he just goes down 4 points because he knows he can come up 5 points, and he's like, whatever, and he wins anyway. And so they call him, his first name, 4 points is his nickname, and his last name, and they like joke around calling him that.
That's hilarious.
Because they're like, he wins anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but he like has done this multiple times.
The guy's nickname is 4 points. It's like, why? Because he's going to miss weight, he's going to be down 4 points, and he's going to win anyway.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, that is a hell of a strategy.
They did like a team thing afterwards where they were doing like, it was 3 5s for each match, and if you missed weight for that, and then you were down 4 points for each round, which was kind of crazy.
Again, I liked the event. The event was well produced. It was fun. The commentary is fun.
And they also do a shot clock for stalling.
This was great. It just didn't happen in the Jones match, but I want to see other promotions implement this, because I think it is a really great way to put across on the broadcast, like stalling time.
Yeah, and it's a little bit less in the hands of the ref. Because normally the ref gives you your first warning, and then they give you your penalty.
They kind of like
it's
the judgment of the ref kind of chooses when he's going to give you a penalty or not.
Yeah, where this is like a shot clock in wrestling, where they give you a specific amount of time that you need to take action in, or you're
calling stalling, and then you have to do something to change your position, or you get penalty, which I like. One of the biggest problems we talk about pretty frequently on and off air for jiu-jitsu and professional grappling is that the need for action. And I think more organizations having more robust and like to the letter stalling rules is a way to do that. That's why it's more consistent. You can train for it, you can plan for it, and then for your viewer, it's very obvious, oh, he's been assessed, he has to move. Like, you now know 20 seconds clock, he has to move now, and that gives you buy-in and information about what's going to be occurring in the match, because you're seeing the shot clock on the screen, and it's not, well, he gave him a penalty, he gave him a warning. Is it a minute? Is it 30 seconds? Is it like, is he work? Like, it kind of removes that gray area out, which in certain circumstances I think is great. It's good to have. The referees do have some discretion. I think it's like, well, they are working here. They're in the same position for 45 seconds, but yeah, he's still working here. But I think if we're going to move forward as a sport, like those protracted and long periods of time where it's like there isn't movement, grappling can't be like that anymore if we ever want to have any more mass appeal, and we're kind of getting to that now.
And if we have any listeners that understand Russian, if somebody could help me out with the rules, because I can't.
Oh yeah, it's a PDF. So we couldn't.
It's
so you
PDF,
translated most of the website, and then we couldn't translate the PDF.
Yeah, and it's in Russian, so I had to listen to the commentators and come from what the commentators were saying and kind of make sense of what was going on.
And the commentators, the first language they spoke was
not,
openly not English.
Yeah, not English. And
it was honestly, it was pretty good though. Like we've heard a lot of Portuguese English commentary that was not nearly on this level. They didn't have to commentate in English. I very much appreciated that they did.
I appreciated the fact that they did.
It was good. It was I enjoyed the flair there. It is definitely not my style I would like for every single event.
No, but
I would absolutely love to hear this one again.
Every once in a while it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially if you get some it's definitely some flair. It's interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of fun listening to the guys commentate. So that was that event. Again, it was fun. Probably something we're going to try to keep an eye on for the future. Because I think the B team guys will probably be back on it. There were a couple B team guys, but Craig was the only guy that we were super familiar with.
And Josh Cisneros was on it in 2021. He was on their card.
Yes.
So they've had
we might have covered that actually.
Yeah. So they've had quite a few other gentlemen, American gentlemen on their cards. So, and they have an application up. So if you really want to go in and try your hand in Kazakhstan, go ahead.
I'll go to Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Very nice. So moving on, let's talk about Fight to Win 205, headlined by Mo Black and Helena Carver. Helena, 15-year-old, we've covered her for a little bit now. Yeah. She had a really great run at East and West Coast trials, I think.
I don't think she was at East Coast. I only think she was at West Coast.
Okay, maybe just West Coast.
I don't remember seeing her at East Coast.
Always has the coordinated spats long sleeve rash guard. Very easy to find at events.
I saw her at West Coast, and I saw her get her first loss I think I've ever seen her lose. Was against
Jasmine Hocherwad?
No,
that was
it was
Jada Mueller?
No, the chick from Alaska.
Yeah, Elizabeth Clay.
Yeah.
Had to go.
I know. Sometimes I
had to pull out the stops there in my brain. Yes.
But yeah, she lost to Elizabeth Clay. That's the only time I've ever seen her lose.
Yeah, she's very, very good.
Yeah, even she's normally on a lot of Fight to Win undercards because she is 15. And she just kind of destroys everyone.
Yeah, she's crazy good. And it's been a while to watch her. I remember she's a kid on those things. Now she's still technically a kid.
Yeah.
But after this performance of Mo Black, definitely someone we're going to be seeing on more cards and the performance at trials. She looked good here. Played a really aggressive game from the bottom. A lot of open guard, really letting Mo come in deep into the guard and leveraging her flexibility to get the feet on the shoulders, feet in front of the face, and staying really active on both sides of her hip, using both her feet, her legs, and her hands to frame out Mo, and really prevented Mo from being able to get any passing off as a top player.
Really pass her at all.
And it was really interesting though, because you even saw her kind of stifle the change in the passing. She forced Mo into sort of the middle of the guard. She kept her legs super high up and super winged out, and so that Mo had to get super close to her. And then you saw Helena be able to leverage her flexibility. So it's like anytime she pushes the leg forward, the hips come up. Anytime she kind of angles down, the other foot comes through. And it really forced Mo to only be able to close range pass. And Helena is so good at stopping that close range pass that eventually she's able to get a sweep. I think she sweeps twice in the match.
Yeah.
Gets the top, has a really, really heavy top pressure half guard game from the top and flattens Mo out completely, looking for an arm bar, looking for a choke on the top. Again, I was just really impressed to see that level of top control from Helena, because again, we've seen it before, but
not as much as you see her.
No, usually see her finishing triangles on the top pretty quickly, and once she sweeps you over, that's usually all she wrote. So Mo Black, again, super tough, was able to keep everything in, was able to prevent the triangle, which is historically what we see Carver finish on top. She usually will triangle you, usually fall to her back after and lock up the triangle, because she has very long limbs for the division she fights in. takes a really dominant decision victory here on Fight to Win. Very excited to see what she continues to do. Again, only 15. No country for old men.
Yeah.
I say it every time. We have more and more. Abate is 16 now. Michael Galvao is 18. Ty is like
Young
19 or I think 19. Kate is 19. You're like
crazy.
Oh yeah, it's a young person's game now. And Tackett is Andrew Tackett is 19. His brother, I'm curious to see what his brother looks like in like 2 years.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
It's wild. Also on the card, our buddy Troy Everett. He was taking on Augusto
Maciel.
This is his last name. First time Troy has ever been in a co-main slot in Denver, so it's really cool to see. And I think Troy has like some of the most matches ever on Fight to Win. He was on the team No Sleep.
I think he has the most matches.
Is it the most still?
Yeah, I think he does.
He's up there with Dom Hoskins. He either has the most wins or the most matches, and I forget which one. Him and Dom, I think, went back and forth for a while, but Dom has been, I thought he'd been on more recently.
Oh, okay.
But regardless, Troy has like 18 or something matches at least on Fight to Win. Finally gets his first co-main slot. It was a rough slot to get. Augusto really played a very, very good top pressure game on top. Was able to collapse Troy's guard, get the legs past, was able to come to the top, kind of work some chokes from the top. Troy, tough as always, was able to get his arms in, prevent, kind of frame out. But Augusto was able to really keep good top positional control for the entirety of the match and force Troy on the defensive for pretty much the entirety of the match. Troy kind of at one point will throw up something, retain his guard or throw for a choke from the bottom, but Augusto was really hip to it and wise to it and was able to kind of pass, consistently keep the pressure down and prevent a lot of that offense. So I'm sure to see our boy Troy take the L there, but props to Augusto. Really, really measured performance on top to kind of contain Troy and prevent all the subs that Troy has off the bottom.
Yeah. It was a very tough match for him, but it was good to see him. It was good to see him get at it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Again, as a gym owner now, it's like it's cool to see him now taking over the gym, Novamente, and then still on the competitive circuit now, because a lot of guys, when they take over gyms, they just can never sort of have the ability to, to keep competing. So I love to see that Troy is still out there and competing and on the co-main slot. Yeah. Also on this card, I can't read your notes upside down, but we watched it before the show. It was a good match.
It was a match. Jonathan Wilson versus Carlos Espinoza.
This shit was fire.
Yeah, it was some fun stuff. Carlos just kind of attacks. That's the only thing I can think of how to say it. He just starts going, and once he starts moving, gets to the legs, and then throws up a triangle and gets a triangle and holds one of the legs.
The triangle offense was really neat because it was basically he spins to the top with the triangle from the bottom. Yeah. And then he loops back and he grabs who's fighting?
It's a leg. Jonathan Wilson.
Yeah, he grabs Wilson's leg, but like it's a funny grip on the leg.
Commentating was joking that he looked like the guy from Castaway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very long beard, kind of very shaggy hair.
Wilson was an appropriate name for him because he was. He looked like
shirtless.
He looked like he belonged in Castaway.
And it was a really cool finish, and I liked the angle. It's not a mounted triangle finish that you see very often with the leg still in the mounted triangle. Yeah. Like he didn't have the leg trapped like a triangle, but it was still like a loop on the leg and then a topside mount
where you
over to the side.
You kind of pull the leg in, so you kind of crunch them in half.
And you're able to crunch that in to finish the triangle. And it was, again, the whole match was like less than 2 minutes, and it was a really, really action-packed match and really neat finish.
Yeah, it was.
And it was
a fun one to watch.
So, also happening this week, we had Boa Super 8. I didn't get a chance to actually watch this. I watched some of the highlights that came through, but you took some notes on what we did have.
Yeah, which was it was a heavyweight nogi tournament, and it was won by Charles Negromonte.
Yeah, Negromonte. That's how we say his name. Or at least for like past 5 years, that's how I've said his name. Charles Negromonte. He was sort of the front runner for the names that were announced initially. I think we previewed this a couple of weeks ago. For the names that were announced, he was the guy I was like, it's probably Negromonte's to take, so it doesn't surprise me too much to take. You can find the whole pay-per-view. Was it Facebook this time?
It was a live I don't know. I just have
Okay.
live stream written down, but it was $25.
Yeah, so you can find it through, I think probably the link is through the Boa Super 8 Instagram or Facebook is how I found them in the
Yeah.
past.
I
and
always
the
go
link
through
there.
Instagram because normally you can go into their profile and there's just
There's a link tree or a bio,
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
can go from
usually
there.
that's on the Facebook and on the Instagram, so that's where you can find, again, Boa Super 8 showcases a lot of like Australian talent, and so it's been, I always really like it when we can cover them, but it was just a busy week with everything else going on, so, but that's the result for that. Again, Craig Jones has been on there before with a bunch of matches. We see Stuart Cooper on there, so it was,
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything, so.
I think that's our whole enchilada.
It was a big old week. Do we want to, what do we have for next week? I think
Probably have Fight to Win 206.
I think Fight to Win 206 is next week, and then I think we have sub only series, the welterweight pros. We have Rise 9, and
I know
then
some people in Rise 9.
do you?
Yeah, there's some locals on Rise 9, which is nice.
Nice. We have no names right now in flow for sub series only. What is that? 7?
7, yes.
7 for Rise 9. We have a tournament with 10-minute submission only, EBI overtime. Ooh, this is a
Rene
spicy ass
Sousa's on.
tournament. We got Jason Rao, we got Mike Padilla, we got Mateo Martinez, we got Luis Cabrera, we got Alex Coraline, we got Sean Marco, we got Abrus Tuvalev, and we got Rene Sousa.
We go into super fights. We do in the main card. We do a Fatima Klein versus Sophia Casella, which will be
That'll be a really
that'll be a
fun
fire
match. Fatima has been looking
Yeah.
amazing, and so
And
so is Sophia.
So is Sophia. We have Sam Maciel.
Versus Ray De Leon,
Yeah.
135-pound match. That'll be
Yeah.
fun. We haven't seen Sam here in a little bit. Sam runs Emerald City Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
and Emerald City Invitational, and formerly the Good Grappling League before it became Emerald City Invitational.
And then
So we're excited to see
on
him
the
on that.
undercard, you have match 22, 21, and 22. Weirdly enough, is a engaged couple. AJ Descani and Catherine Molaris are actually a couple.
Yeah.
And they're back to back, which is fun. They're good. They just opened up a Droogs MMA up in Pennsylvania.
We also have this is a match I'm really excited for. Trinity Pun versus Peyton Lecher.
Okay.
So that's a match that I will be am super excited for. That should be
Okay.
a barn burner. Pun has looked really good, and Peyton has
You have
looked
Laura
really
Kent
good.
is on there.
So Peyton Lecher is the European trial
Okay.
winner for the first one. She's South American, or sorry, South African,
Okay.
and she had a really great finishing sequence in her finals of the first trials. Again, unfortunately,
Yeah,
didn't
no-
win the second trial, so she didn't get the invite slot. But that's who that is. So that
Oh,
should
wow.
be a really tough match for both women. Watch that match. That's probably going to be for me the match of the weekend, because both women just come and bring it. So any other matches that we
Quite
see
a
here?
few. Well, I mean, I know people like
Yeah, so this is a local card for us, so we know a lot of names.
Yeah, like Nicole Matthew, I know her.
Yeah.
She's local. She's a beast.
Should be-
Chelsea Mara
Yeah.
is a beast.
Should be a lot of fun. Rise
yeah.
puts on some fun stuff. Any thoughts? Again, we don't really do a lot of the bracketing for the EBI stuff because it really depends. Like, hey, do you get Rene Sousa and Jason Rao the first round? Like, well, they're not going to make it to the finals then.
Yeah.
I think those are for me
Yeah, I think
the
one
front
of
runners.
I think one of them is going to win.
And then Marco, and then Padilla is always a sleeper.
Yeah.
Like, he can always a dude that can go far. So it really depends on how it's all bracketed. Again, seeing Sousa in the finals is not going to surprise me.
It's also EBI overtime. So really, in all honesty, we could have all kinds of crazy madness
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah, who ends the overtime, who plays defensive the first round and then can fill it out in overtime. Again, gonna probably lean for Rene here. Could see Sean and Marco go far here, and also could see wouldn't surprise me to see Jason Rao take the whole thing. Jason Rao is, I think, the Rise champion for 170, I think.
I do not know that information.
I think he's still a Rise champion at 170,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. So that will be fun. Rise is finally on Flow Grappling and not on Fight Pass anymore, I think, because previously used to be a Fight
it's
Pass
on-
thing.
Yeah, it's on Flow.
Yeah.
Because you have Flow open.
Yes. So I think that does it. I don't think we have any announcements for Fight to Win. It's listed as 207 on Flow Grappling, but I think it should be 206.
Yeah.
We also have Pan's Kids, but we don't typically cover a lot of the we don't cover the kids events because they're weird to cover for us, and it's not really the scope of the show. But when they get, when they start being the adults, then we take note and go, okay, we got to cover you now, as we did today. So, what should we look like? Anything fun?
No.
Just
Not-
training.
Just training, hang out.
Really just prepping for leaving for Vegas.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to have to find something to tweak myself up before I do Vegas. I'm going to have to do like good fight or something beforehand.
Hey, let's do it.
I don't know. We're going to do something.
Do something local before we fly to Vegas for the
then we have
Vegas
to go to
Open.
Vegas,
Got to
just
figure out if
because-
you're moving weight classes or what you're doing.
Yeah.
I got to figure out if
I'm going to give
reffing,
myself to the end of the month to see how low I can get, and then we'll figure out.
if you're making the cut.
Yeah, I haven't hit 25 in a long time, so we're about to figure out.
I hit
if I-
35 once, and Rachel was like, you're not doing that again. So I'm like,
Yeah, my only fear.
Okay.
My only fear is I know I can do it. It's just
being
how
in the
much-
desert, how diminished are you going to be in the desert in Vegas prior to ADCC? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
That's always kind of the thought. So
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm just chilling. My ribs are finally almost healed up, so I'm back to training a bit.
Yep.
And
It's good times.
I'm hoping to train smart enough to not tweak them again. So I'm trying to, again, just taking it easy until they finally heal up all the way. We're looking at going on vacation this week, so I might actually travel on vacation.
That'd be fun.
And then I'll have to basically I'll bring like a blue belt. Be like, I'm a blue belt, guys. And
You
then
can't do that.
I'm not gonna do it. I
can't
always
do
joke
that.
about it because it'd be funny. But
yeah, but that's some bullshit right there.
it is.
You could bring a
bullshit.
pink belt and wear that.
That'd be funny.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you can't use train with that. I'm like, okay. So
It-
that's the schedule for the week. Is that
Yeah.
we're probably gonna do the show late. It'll come out the same time, but it'll be a late recording for me because I'll be getting back from vacation. So that will be fun. As always in the show, anything else?
No, that's
All right.
it.
As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
and we are the Grappling Around. Stay on the mat, whatever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Google Plus,
Until that shuts down.
we have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.